Welcome to the Nextiva collaboration system.
Please enter a conference ID and press pound. You will now be placed into the conference. Press star for help.
Good afternoon, Master. We have a call online.
Oh, Josh, are you here?
Josh, you made it.
I'm in.
Thank you for calling in. Who else do we have? Anybody else want to call in? Tanya? Andy? One once, one twice. Shoot Tanya an email then and see if she's planning on joining us, but otherwise we will go ahead and get started. Hello, Andy.
Hello, Andy.
All right, this will be the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of the Seven Oaks Community Development District being held on Wednesday, June 9th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. to be held at the Seven Oaks Clubhouse located at 2910 Sports Code Circle, that's in Chapel, Florida, 33544. Present representing quorum, we have Chairman Jeff Fisher here, Vice Chair Jocelyn Green, present via telephone. Tom Graff here. Andrew Mendenhall here. Sean Grace
Here.
With District Council, we have Vanessa Steiners, if I pronounced that right? Thank you. She will be working alongside Rebecca, who'll actually be here shortly. John Gentilia, our maintenance manager, and myself, Taylor Nielsen, with District Manager. This time we'll begin with the audience comments portion. Board members, I'm going to look for a little bit of guidance here. John, who's been so helpful with our communication with residents, has brought in a list, so he printed out in front of you there. Being that we obviously want to address all residents' concerns, but in the sake of time, we're kind of looking for advice on best practice on how we'll handle this.
So, and I saw these online, I guess on the Facebook. I think that if this is the first time it's being presented, it would not make a lot of sense to sit here and hash each of these items out. I know there's a number of bullet points. Some of them are maintenance related, for example, the easement with the erosion issues. So some of those can probably be answered offline from staff.
Correct.
The other ones, to be honest with you, I want to digest them before because otherwise we'll just sit here and talk about it all day.
Yeah.
And possibly talk about it at the next meeting.
And I kind of made some notes here for you, John. I think a lot of these are best answered. Maybe we just have maybe a once a week email where you kind of compile things that come to you over the course of the week and send it to me and John and Teresa, and we could probably answer at least 75% of this, and then maybe the rest of it we would leave and say, hey, this will be good for a good meeting. Or
yeah, I mean,
unless there's any other suggestions, just to make sure that we're addressing things, but at the same time this doesn't turn into a long Q&A for 2 hours at the beginning of the meeting.
I like your suggestion, and yeah, generally speaking, I mean, these meetings are business meetings, so they should be for basically specific action items and motions, and I don't know if we can generate that, at least just having received. And you're right, a lot of these could be maintenance. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with you as well, Andy. Just kind of look at some of these things, like for instance, the one with the retention pond and the trash. I mean, that's something that, can be addressed offline.
Okay. So,
I think the essence of this meeting is obviously, board meeting addressing items, right? So we want to give the residents the opportunity of, chiming in. Obviously, we did a, friendly thing of sharing information back, kind of on the fly. If we're going to be more kind of a formal thing or something that we want to put, as a regular concept, then I think it needs to fall more in line of how, district policy will work. If it works for staff will then recommend some sort of motion, it'll go off an agenda, that's where it's properly discussed, all the appropriate residents can chime in at that point, et cetera. So if it is a meeting, bringing the bread back and something like that, my recommendation would be to be formal with kind of running the meeting how we should. If it's informal and something can be quickly addressed, I have no problems with that, but I think our staff are more than capable of answering those things.
okay. So maybe we start with, like I said, instead of emails trickling out, because he's gonna get a whole bunch of stuff from residents that, and we, again, want to address everything best as possible, so maybe once a week, like every Friday or Monday or whatever day works for you, that you want to just submit like a list to me and John and Teresa, and we can kind of go about it and each respectively answer what works to each of us, and make any recommendations.
Don't John and Teresa have a monthly meeting set up for John wants to? I'm sending that if you go to her, we'd like to talk about it. And John, maybe somebody from the resident council, right? So I want to make sure we're not placing any extra burden on the staff, but I also want to make sure the residents get their answers appropriately, So we talk about filtering system and how the resident council is more active. A regular monthly meeting with the right staff sounds right. At least everybody else here want to do more than that, but it seems like a lot of dedicated time right there. So is that already not established, or is that not working?
That hasn't been established yet, Josh.
We had one meeting with Teresa when you were out, and she had said if I wanted to have it with both of you, just to wait until you came back. But then she was going out, and this was just a couple of days.
That's what I want.
Right.
That might be hard to schedule on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea to, I think, for the three of us to sit down, because 8 of these 12 items I can answer pretty easily.
Exactly.
Just an email,
I don't know if my 3 minutes has started now, but the reason why I was put on this list is because people have vocalized that they wanted them to be brought up at the CDD. In many situations, I replied to people individually and said, hey, this is a John issue, this is a maintenance issue.
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely just reach out to John directly, or I can bring it up to him, or we can bring it up at the CDD meeting. So the request was to bring it up to CDD, make sure that the voice is there. That's one of the jobs of the resident council, is to be a voice to the people, let you know what people are saying. If we can do a weekly email and that's not too burdensome, I have no problem with doing that. It's just if we stick with something that's monthly, and it just seems like it's this, we have the same monthly cadence, and it's a long duration for sometimes a quick fix. So if you don't mind receiving an email from me every week that just says, here's what I have. And I hope that list wouldn't be, this large.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these issues, things that I'm looking for guidance on, like the Palmetto Bend. There were 4 residents that said, hey, safety concerns, especially over 2020 with, the stuff that was going on in Wesley Chapel, we'd like to have a gate. Well, I know that a gate is SOPA. I know that the monument is CDD, but if somebody.
The gate and the monument is still CDD property. We only manage the operation of the gate and the repairs for the gate and the cameras on the gate, but it's not SOPA doesn't own the gates and CDD owns the monument. It's all CDD is through ownership.
Yes, sir. What I meant was that there's a collaboration between the two, because obviously SOPA would have to maintain the codes and the gate functionality whenever it breaks like they currently do. My point is, I don't know where to tell the residents to start this process. If it's even possible. Maybe there's something in the laws that say that they're not allowed to have it. But if they are, and they want to pursue it, is there, some special financial thing that has to go in so that only that group or that neighborhood, Palmetto Bend, is responsible for paying for it? Or if it's a completely CDD, where do I start? So that would be my question, and you don't have to answer it right now. If that was,
That's a good example right there, where it's something that should be taken to staff, and if staff are not able to address this, then they would recommend the district management to come to an agenda, so the agenda can be properly noticed to residents and discussed. Bringing such a large topic up in a 3-minute resident intro on the board meeting feels like you're just kind of juking the top. And then for smaller items, which is status updates on projects that maybe the maintenance crews or staff is working on, those are kind of touchy to me, because it's not that we don't want information for the residents to actually do, but John and Grace do their jobs to execute, and we don't have communication staff necessarily hired in this district, right? We have very limited staff that are executing the project with the asphalt. So if the longer term act is that the residents know the minutia of every single thing that's going on with every single project and quote and activity in the organization, then to me that just putting on a business act, that seems like we have large task that's, like the gates, and again, that should be handled by staff, they can't handle it, it should go to the agenda, it should be properly noticed and discussed.
Okay, so to finish out my 3 minute, I'll just wrap it up here. I have no problem sending the email to you and Teresa and John. I can follow that process, it's not a problem. The only thing I'll counter to Josh's side there, communication is key. I pointed it out at the very first bullet. The biggest thing with communication, look at the success of everyone that was complaining about the pools. Oh, the pools are broke again, oh, this, and that. But whenever you have a good communication strategy and you're able to say, hey, stuff happens. It's like the AC on my car broke. Well, it wasn't because I just got it serviced for an oil change that now it's broke, it just broke. So we have to deal with those issues as they come up. But whenever you put out an infographic, which is a great idea, you put that out there, now everyone sees on a nice succinct list, okay, pool's not available until July 1st, splash pad's not available until the middle of June. I'm making these dates up, I don't know if they're accurate. You're not gonna have the slide until this date. I mean, all of a sudden, guess how many people are, complaining or asking questions? Not that many. The volume of those requests has gone down dramatically. So I'm not asking for, minutia. I'm not asking for, hey, what size valve did you use for the sprinkler system on XYZ? What I'm saying is, hey, I know that we want to do this project with the trees on I-75. I've got 3 neighbors that keep, wanting to have a status update. Just as simple, what's next? And just like whenever I respond to them and say, hey, John was on vacation, we didn't have any progress this week. Hey, not a problem, thumbs up, that's what I get. So high-level communications like that, hopefully it doesn't take too much time. And John's been very, helpful with everything in the past so far. And, I'll take this last little second to commend John because people don't really recognize this. I was out flying the drone one day, I see him parked watching a vendor. And the vendor has a history of damaging the grass. His ability to recognize whenever 7 Oaks is being trampled on, or whenever there's things that aren't being done to a higher level of expectation, the fact that him and his crew are out there watching for that stuff, that should be commended, and we never really point that stuff out. But anytime, yes, sir.
You guys, on some of these, where it says see pictures, are those pictures online?
Yes, sir.
With this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I want to see some of the evidence that's going on. Okay.
Yes, sir. It's under johnthompson.com. So anyways, thank you to John. It's been great working with him. I know that, as a project manager for legacy modernization projects with the government, I tend to be a little bit overbearing and saying, hey, what's the status? So I didn't want to ruin that relationship. So if every week is doable through email, then that would be fantastic. And if it becomes too much, I have no problem with people telling me to slow down or, save it for another day. I know everyone's busy.
I think that'd be a great start, and as we are doing now, we can make adjustments as needed or fine tune this process, after, making the best of communication.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I do.
And correct me if I'm spelling the same from Shoma?
Yeah.
Would you like to go ahead with your few minutes here and discuss with the board your concern here?
If you could come over and stand or sit in a chair, we can hear you a little better. I can hear you a little better.
Should I start talking about it?
Sure, yeah, when you're ready.
Okay. I reside in Steelbrook subdivision. Tomorrow we're completing 16 years in that property, from the day when I'm living there. And then we have a small pond at the back of the house. And then it's been good, everything was good, clean, neat, and then all the, whatever monthly or yearly, whatever the maintenance was going on, it was going on very well. And then we started noticing sometime in 2012, there was a lot of algae and a lot of aquatic plants and all coming up right in the middle of the pond. And then we sent an email and somebody came and sprayed, cleaned, something they did because we were all, that time there was no working from home. So we were all going to the work. By the time we come back, everything looks kind of treated and all that. Within a few days, everything is cleaner. So that was fine. And I think later on around 2013, 14, we started noticing that there is some sand coming and collecting in the pond. We just brought it into the CTD notification. I don't know what they did and all that, I'm not sure because, yeah, we were not staying home. They used to come in the weekdays and do something and it was okay. And then 16 onwards, even 16, 17, if I go back and see my pictures, they were good. And then later on, actually, I think 17, there was I came here to the CTD meeting and brought up this issue and then they sent somebody and a crew, and they said, like, okay, it's a small place, they cannot bring in the big machines and all that. They sent some workers and they got it removed manually. It was all fine. Again, it started collecting again. And then because of all this pandemic, this, that, and a lot of stress at work and all, we didn't pay much attention to it. Now our kid is like 6 years old and my neighbors would all playing here. They just go and walk on the, when it is little dried up, they walk on the sand and all that thing. I see some alligator coming and visiting the place and going back and all that thing. Then I realized that this is not, I mean, good. That needs to be cleaned up. There must be some issue with the how the sand collects, especially when it rains and it comes and collects in a pond. I don't know what is the issue. This primary issue needs to be addressed, and then it should make sure that I mean there should be some way to stop it coming into the pond. I'm pretty sure I've seen a lot of ponds in the Seven Oaks. I don't see anybody anywhere the sand is getting collected into the pond and getting a like kind of a build up a highline kind of thing. If you want to have pictures and emails from right back like 2008 to now, how it was before, how is it's now. I have collected enough pictures and emails, and also responses from the company, CDD company, that they're going to come and inspect the place and they're going to treat it and all that kind of. But this is keep on going, happening. This is something needs to be taken care of, please.
I don't know that I've been made aware of it up to this point. Maybe you mentioned up to like 2018, so there might have been some previous managers that were involved.
Not 18, it was around 16 or 17, if I go back. Around 16
okay,
and 17.
So that was way before me then. So if you could, my information is on our website as the district manager. If you could send me some of that, and then I can follow up with our maintenance team, our pond vendors.
Could I have your address?
27052
27052.
Still Brew Drive. Yeah, let me check.
If you look at 7oakcdd.com, my email address is on there. I can jot it down for you if you want.
Yes.
If you can send me some information.
Is this regularly mowed behind your land, John?
It's not, it's sand built up in the pond, it's not landscaping.
Is this relevant to just the drought and all ponds drying up in general?
Yeah, it only exposes itself when we have a drought.
Yeah, it hasn't really.
No, it collects actually, John. I told you. I can pull the pictures. It's very clear before and now with 12 onwards, with 12 it was clear. 13 onwards, I see the pictures and the emails that it's been collected.
Yes, you can send it my way and then we can.
Yeah. You want me to send all the pictures as well as the emails of the communication,
great.
what we did before?
You could send them
Yeah,
to
any
him,
information
to
on the
for
boards.
us.
Yeah, sure. But what's the action might want to take after all that thing?
I don't know about looking at it. I couldn't tell you. I'll have to have the pond vendors look at it and see what the problem was. I don't know about seeing anything.
Okay, because now it is dried up and then it is more exposed than before. And always it's exposed actually, the highline, the sand, in the middle of the pot. So, yeah, it will be a good idea. I'll send all the pictures and the communication.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Todd Dilio?
Good evening, board members. Thanks for taking a few minutes to hear me out. I'm here to discuss a letter I received from Taylor and the board members regarding the fence we installed here in Appleton. And what the fence is doing, based on what this letter says, is there's an easement, and the easement starts at the property line and runs 12.5 feet from the property line inward. Well, 12 feet 3 inches is my wall to my most west home. So we went through the complete process. We put a pool, we put a lanai in, and we put in the fence. We went through the process as we understood it, had all the approvals, we have backup emails, we have surveys, we have Pasco County permits. And a year and a half later, I received a letter from the board through Taylor. I called Taylor. Taylor recommended me to come to get some clarity, maybe collaboration, to understand the next steps. Here in the letter, you're asking me to remove the fence and to allow a 7-foot access for the easement. So my request is, can we not collaborate somehow after a year and a half? First of all, where was the process that I didn't realize that the CDD needed to be involved or needed to be approved? Nowhere is that documented that we saw. My wife is very good, she's a planner. She's got every email listed, every approval, as you can see this one, we're trashing this stuff. When we got the letter, she reached into a file cabinet and pulled it out and thinking, you're pretty amazing. Nonetheless, I'm just trying to understand, how did we miss a process where a year and a half later, we are now getting a letter saying that we have to move the fence? I am willing to put a wider gate in. If that allows access to the easement, I'm very happy to do so. What I'm not willing to do without some kind of reason and ability to be forced is take the fence down and move it 7 feet, which leaves me nothing but, floor. The fence is not even worth it. Now the fence is there to protect our dogs because of the wetlands and the gators that come up out of that. So I'm just trying to get an understanding what clarity, what's the next step. I think moving the fence in 30 days for the letter is a little aggressive. I just would like to understand the next steps, the process, how did this get dismissed, and then why a year and a half later I'm getting a letter.
So I can probably tell you how it got missed, and this is, I'm just gonna give you what my speculation is.
Sure.
Because I don't deal with the letters with the HOA or anything, but I do manage a lot of CDDs. So typically, these sorts of things happen because it's not the CDD's responsibility or even the HOA to necessarily check all of the easements, exactly where you're putting your fence, those sorts of things. It's usually specifically a resident responsibility to make sure that it's not put in an easement, whether it be CDD or county or anything like that. So that's probably just the basic reason why it was missed, because there was no form that said, hey, the CDD is going to come out and make sure you don't go over an easement or anything like that. There is nothing, because quite frankly, there are so many different easements that go across properties, utility easements, county easements. So it would be an unending task. So.
Okay. Would it make sense if somewhere in an approval process where an owner could go through a checklist and it simply says one little checkbox, go and make sure that it's your responsibility to make sure the easement is.
Yeah.
Nowhere would be that we've looked. There's nowhere in the current documentation we follow that it indicates that we have to do an additional check of something.
And that is probably a good suggestion if it's not in I don't have the HOA documentation. So, typically you might see something like that in the documentation that says homeowner is responsible for checking the easements, those sorts of things. So that would be a good reminder if it's not in the documentation.
The AMR form has just been revised again, so that still could be amended. That's always a project in flux.
I can imagine.
It's a good point to put another, because we have things like on painting, that you check off that complies with the monotony control, that you're not getting two houses same color right together. It's a lot of, so this would be an additional bullet point for them to check off. I think that the suggestion is a good one. I'm meeting with the HOA manager tomorrow. We're going over all the design guidelines for the design review committee, so I'll mention it to them in the meeting. But I know what you're saying. You've got the 30-day. I take it down. It was a bit aggressive. They did extend that they would pay for the taking. Did the SOFA say they would pay for the?
I didn't see. This is the only letter I received. It doesn't say anything about payment of any sort. Who's responsible fiscally?
I thought SOFA sent the letter out.
Now this would be the CDD, because and I'm just trying to remember. This was an access issue for a pond. Was it for mowing around a pond or something?
Yeah, no, treating.
Oh, treating around the pond. So we would have sent that one, which makes sense.
It looks like it came from the board, the district board of supervisors, the 14th meeting, it was done after that,
So being more familiar, John, is this something that, because we do have circumstances in different communities where they do put swing gates, accessible, that sort of thing. Is that something that would make it work, or is it, because I don't know where the easement, I know that the easement goes between the houses, but I don't know how it sits respective to the neighbor or the equipment, the pond people go in with. I assume they do some sort of a gate or something like that.
That's it, they drive the gator back between the houses. Yeah. My only input on the option of a gate on your fence is, because the contractor's already said this to me, they don't open gates in a fenced yard and hope that there's not a dog or a child behind the gate or whatever the case may be, then drive their machine in your fenced yard to the next gate, swing that one open and hope nobody runs under the machine or whatever the case may be. So the contractor won't go through a gate, through someone's yard to get to the pond.
Gotcha, that makes sense. I mean,
They're not gonna take on that responsibility or liability. The
If
open
I
easements.
recall correctly, guys, did we not send a letter to both these residents, one with the fence and the other with the bushes on the other side? And the idea was that we were asking both residents to shrink back what they had, even within that area, to a minimum of what maintenance team would need for access. Is that accurate?
To put a hard number on it, we asked for 7 feet on each. I believe the letter saying in front of you.
it's 7 feet, yeah.
It's 7 feet from each resident.
So
Yeah, so a total of 200 feet.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, I don't know if it helps to serve, and I can't see him working, but it's not necessarily to say anything about one thing here. This is just CDD trying to get access to an area to which, the property is plotted for us to have access to, we don't. So it's not anything, pointed towards you or anything you may have done, but we do find ourselves in a situation where if there is an easement, it's documented with the county for for your plot. And our maintenance teams are saying that they're not able to get access, we're actually telling both residents on my property line to ensure that we have the clearance to use it.
I have one question, it's a simple one. How come it took 1.5 years for this problem to surface?
Well, the problem's been around for probably more than 1.5 years, but I'm not involved in the HOA discussions with the homeowners at all. But I guess when the fence was erected, it was brought to the attention that now we no longer have access, and then the whole process started between the homeowners and the HOA and the CDD. Has gone through its paces.
I mean, how often would they be going back there? Weekly, monthly?
Every week.
Every week, yeah.
Every pond is visited on the property every week.
So I respectfully say that that's not the case. Our fence has been up for only 1.5 years, and that pond has not been treated for 6 years.
It is possible, because ponds or even mowing areas get forgotten sometimes.
Yeah.
So that is possible, but they should be treated every week.
Understood, fair enough. In fact, our lawn care individuals are the ones that actually keep from the back of the lawn beyond our fence now, right to the
Yeah,
water.
but that is your responsibility.
Okay, that's fine. I wasn't sure if that's your.
Yeah.
So I guess the biggest challenge is it's 1.5 years. We did everything what we were supposed to, and then all of a sudden now we're being held accountable for an easement without a complete understanding. Pasco County issued the permit for the pool, the lanai, and the fence. So I'm a bit lost on how did we fall through the cracks, and now we've got a responsibility in 30 days to take it down.
Let me have your address again, too.
Yes, it's 26634 Shore Grass, one word.
I want to make sure this is the same one that we were discussing last week in the HOA meeting.
So I think your question is just to the wrong board. I mean, I don't think you've gotten approval from us, Brendan, correct?
Well, I didn't know we needed approval from you.
And normally you wouldn't, that's just noted in the county property lines, that that's an easement that is the CDD property.
Okay.
So it should not have been approved potentially from another entity. So I don't know how to give you clarification on something that we.
Well, I know very little about this, one just came in passing, but I know there was an offer made by SOPA to pay for it moving, to get it expedited to move it.
SOPA's never come to me. We've heard nothing from anybody. It's the first letter we've ever heard. That's why I was totally probably 1.5 years later. I
Did the district offer to pay? Okay. Okay.
This is the first in district.
It's my understanding, Jack, that SOPA made that offer also.
Maybe that was to the
Who
other.
did they make the offer to?
I don't know. Maybe the other half of the.
Yeah, I'm not involved in it, I'm just, but I've been
I will-
told that SOPA made an offer to pay to move the fence in the past, I don't know when.
My fence, or
Yes.
different?
Yes.
We've never received a communication, a letter, a knock, a phone call about that fence. This is the first letter. you're
Same
gonna have to-
meeting tomorrow, that's another issue will be brought up.
Yeah, no idea.
So from our perspective, it sounds like he will follow up with SOPA, and is there a way you could follow up with him, or who should be the one to follow up?
Just
with SOPA?
if that fence were to be moved at SOPA expense,
Mhm.
how far would it have to be moved that you're happy with it and yet give you access?
Well, there's a measurement that was.
They're saying they're asking me to move it 7 feet off our property line, and our neighbor, Tony Cash, I believe, also received a letter. He has bushes that they're asking to be moved 7 feet. So I'm guessing they're looking for 14 feet of that easement, of the 25.
Yeah, I don't know the dimensions that are required. I mean,
Yeah, I've got the survey, we've done everything, like I said, we've done everything we thought we were, our due diligence and.
How much area is needed for to get through there?
The easements are typically 10-foot minimal, so if you have 10 foot, it's plenty.
So it wouldn't have to be, it could be 5 feet instead of 7.
The easement is 25 feet based on the survey, and 25 feet puts, there's not 25 feet between the two homes to begin with. So the survey and the easement is off. Because you go and measure one wall to Tony Cash's wall, it's not 25 feet. So where they're getting an accurate survey of 25 feet easement is beyond me. Now, the fence is on our property line. For them to, if you're asking 7 feet, that would move us, and that'd be less than 3 feet from the home to the fence. And at that point, what's the sense of having, we're gonna do a 3-foot runway, I guess?
Well, so I think the only thing we can do is try to help facilitate SOPA stepping in, because that wasn't our approval process, but from our perspective, can we offer more time for them to correct it?
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, I've been in contact with him and the neighbor as well, and again, I probably should give him more than 30 days, because that would be come to the meeting, so I let him know, hey, come to the meeting, you know, we'll get an extension, we'll do what we need to do, you know, but he deserves an opportunity to speak on their behalf here. The other resident wasn't able to attend, but we would, that he'd be attending.
No, that's good, thanks for coming. So I just don't know that we're in a position to do much except for offer more time and help you work, you know, hopefully SOPA can help you work that out.
So Tom, what I'm hearing is that the fence has to be moved, there's no other compromise. I mean, I'd be willing to, so there's a fence, we have gates on both sides of the fence.
Right.
Yeah, there's plenty of room, so I'm just saying, we're willing, do I sign rights of use, do I, anything like that, but to say I gotta lift the fence and move it, I mean, then it doesn't make any sense. I've got 3 feet space from my home to run the fence line.
Right, so
I mean-
what would you suggest if we need a clear 10 feet at least on the side? Is there another option that you can see? Because there's no other properties that have an easement that give you access to that location.
Yeah, so I'm very comfortable, I'd be willing to put in a second gate that would swing open. The contractor
Yeah, it
challenging, but
sounds
I can put I have no problem putting another gate on there and give them full 10 feet or 14 feet right across, right into where they need to. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, it
That's what I'm looking
sounds
for.
like that would be an issue though, which is understandable. I mean, they don't want to necessarily take on the liability for what can happen. I get that too.
But that's no different than when they run back and forth without gates, right? Kids, animals, dogs.
Well, it's a little bit different because number one, they'd be traversing private property, you know, as well. So
There's
the
private
easement
property.
is
That's what I was
over.
gonna say, I mean, the easement.
Well, the easement is over your private property. Just from their perspective, you have to understand that they're going to look at it as they're taking on, you know, considerable additional risk because of, as John was mentioning,
Yeah.
you know, a dog or a kid or something like that.
Has that
Or a
been
gate's
voiced?
left open.
Has that been voiced by them? They won't do it.
Yes, by the contractor that comes out on property, then he would never do that.
And then they can't go the other easement and come along the back of that line to get to the pond. I've seen them do that in the past.
Well, there is no, the legal access that the district has is right there through your two properties. That's the legal access. There may have been times in the past that they have taken a different route, though they really shouldn't be doing that because technically we're not permitted to do that, only through our easement access.
So, John, another question, and they may have done this, the contractor, have they, since they can't gain access with their equipment, Have they walked back there to see the condition? Because I think that makes a difference of whether this has to be solved in 30 days or in 90 days. I mean, if they walk back there and the pond looks fine, then we might have some time to see if there are any options. If they walk back there and the pond's erect and it's getting worse day by day, then that, makes things different.
Well, it's a very small pond. It dries up completely in the
Okay.
dry season. And a couple neighbors east of you don't like the pond not being maintained.
Sure.
So I'm hearing voices from them that the pond's not being maintained. Why not? Well, we don't have access, so we can't. So the current status of the pond?
Yeah.
I don't know yet.
Yeah.
We could walk back and take a look at it, but it could change in 3 days when we get
It definitely could.
14 inches of rain.
I get that.
So could we ask the contractor how much space they really need? I mean, we just came up with a number 10 feet, but we don't know.
Yeah, if you want a direct answer from him, but typically it's a 10-foot.
So how far is between the bush that we're asking them to remove and your gate, or your fence?
On Tony's side, the neighbor's side, so his bush is here and our fence, he put the bush, the one section of the bush right up it. So we would, if they needed 10 feet, so that would be what, 5 each versus the 7, so we'd end up needing to move the fence 5 feet over.
I was just wondering if he removes the bush, if you could then get around it.
If that were the case, and hypothetically, does that give you, from your perspective, does that make it any better? Because then you're talking about 3 feet or 5 feet, which is
So
obviously.
that would end us giving us 5 feet from the home.
Yeah, I mean, is that just as bad of a situation? In other words, I want to go down this road, potentially, if it doesn't help you out and it's the same situation, then instead of 3 feet, I have 5 feet, which still stinks.
Right.
And you can only answer that.
I'd have to measure it and just have a look at that, but, it's better than 3 feet.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's even possible, but the other thing is, if we make any sort of, delineation from completely clearing an easement, well, we would have to have something on file, basically an agreement that said if at any point we ever needed that fence completely out of the easement, then obviously you'd be agreeable to it.
Well, I'd be willing to sign, if they're willing to open the gate, or I can put sliding posts, and we can lift the whole section out if that's what we need to do to get these guys in there.
So I would suggest he goes to them and say, how much space do you need?
Yeah, I'm gonna get that exact number.
Totally.
I'll get that exact number
And then,
in writing.
and then we can get, I think Jack will get SOPA to talk to it.
Can I see,
tomorrow.
are you around tomorrow
Yeah,
night?
yeah.
I'll try to, let's get out there tomorrow before I have the meeting with, at 10.
Just call me when you're ready. Not a problem.
Hopefully they don't need as much space, and then you can take just a couple feet instead of 5 or whatever.
Well, for what it's worth, for the few people that are here, there's constantly a misunderstanding of easements when we have discussions with homeowners. I have one happening now, and she never really realized that the easement was between her and her neighbor's home. And now the gator is gonna be driving through there, where they used to come from a different area, which is no longer accessible, and she's not happy about it. But it's a legal easement that the district has rights to, the county has rights to. Sometimes culverts are running under those easements. If that culverts fail, the county's gonna come in and take out everything that's on that easement, bushes, fences, whatever it is, to repair that culvert. So easements are there, they're not really recognized sometimes, but in this case, it's the only access to this particular pond. So something's gotta be done.
And like I said, I'm willing to collaborate and cooperate and allow them to open the gate in and out, it's never locked.
Yeah, well, that's,
It's a liability that I guess we have to prove the contractor.
we would all have opinions on that. I would never do that if I was a contractor, but that's me.
Yeah.
The contractor may say, hey, great, I'll sign whatever you want. I don't know. Or even if the board will permit that, I have no idea.
And what is the regular maintenance on that pond? How often? Because as I said, it's been 5-6 years since I've seen anyone back out.
Every pond, depending on every pond should be treated once a week, or visited. Sometimes they don't need treatment. Or the contractor is well aware that they're dry and I don't even need to go there, because we've had no rain in 9 days.
Right.
So he doesn't even need to visit. But every pond gets visited once a week. That's the goal. They're here Monday and Friday. They do half the community on Monday, they do the other half on Friday. So
in theory, they'd be coming and using that easement weekly?
That's correct. Yeah, if he needs to. If he went back there once again, because it's a small pond. If it's dry and we haven't had rain for 3 weeks, he's not gonna go in there. He knows there's nothing in there to do.
Right.
So Taylor, is the board gonna motion for extending this 30 days?
Yeah, that would be my question, Nick, to kind of wrap this up for right now. Are we gonna go ahead and extend the time period for resolution while we
Yeah,
We'll finalize the number and talk to Sal, see how much room they need to negotiate that somewhat.
Yeah, I'll file a motion to delay until update in July meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we'll just hold off until July meeting, look for
Yeah,
inspection.
and knowing, we'll just wait for this, whatever we think the situation is, I mean, we're gonna be reasonable, try to work with you, but we don't wanna drag it into 2025 either, so.
No, nor do I.
Yeah.
Okay, so motion by Tom. Second.
Second by Andy.
Second by Andy. Thanks, Sean. All in favor? Motion carries. All right, so moving on, do you guys have any audience comments before we move on? Okay.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll follow up with you.
Thanks.
All right, operations manager, landscape update, and field operations updates.
Okay, you can see my notes, so there's a question I have for the board. The trimming of the palm trees is ready to begin, but do you want to consider taking all the boots off of every single palm while they're trimming the palms this year? It's never been done in the community ever. It's not an absolute requirement, but it definitely would visually make the property nicer. It'll definitely cut down on the debris that falls from trees and storms and winds and things of that nature. There is a number that was given to us of $18,000 to deep boot basically 400 trees. It's only $45 a tree, which financially is not that much of money because it is a big job, a large debris removal when they do that. But it's not in our budget. It would have to be a reserve pull if you want to do it. So I just put it on there in case you had an interest in doing that, because we want to do it while we're trimming.
It's a once and done thing.
It's a once and done. Once the boots are stripped, then the tree will stay clean.
And it'll keep the debris down.
It'll keep the debris down.
For doing it now.
I can't hear you, Josh.
Repeat,
So
Josh.
is the $45 discount for doing it right now?
No discount was discussed, but it's an $18,000 total addition, which breaks down to 45 per
Just
tree.
doing it now versus doing it later, same cost, percent cost savings.
Yeah, I mean, if you deboot the trees next year, I'm sure the cost will be the same. But you want to do it while you're trimming. You don't want to do them as two separate entities because the numbers will be different.
Gotcha, thanks.
So it's just a suggestion if the board's interested.
You don't have any money left in this year's budget?
Not for that.
How much is in the reserve?
I mean, you talking about reserve for this year's reserve contribution or capital reserve?
For this year's.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if I can recall the current budget, we're already going reserves pretty good this year, right?
Yeah, we spent about half of it, almost, we got, $186 left, 185K.
But, my biggest concern is, since we're going in so much, going in again, even for 18,000, that does make me a bit nervous.
Yeah, it's not a requirement.
If it needs it, right, it's dramatic, and I'm for it, right, do we have to do for the community, but it's nice to have, the cost value is there, we can wait till next year, properly budgeting it, probably decide that right around.
And we're scheduled to do the tree trimming every year.
Yes.
Well, there's another year of picking up stuff through storms, so I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I mean,
what sets associated with it.
It'll be 10% of your remaining balance, give or take. It'll be 10% of your remaining balance, because what do you say, 185 is left? So,
I don't think it's that big of a hit.
I don't think it is either, but like Josh said, we're kind of tacking into the reserves just a little bit
Well, that's what they're there for. I just assume be done and done with it. I mean, and then you get the beauty of it for another year. I mean, what are we gaining by putting it off?
You're not gonna gain anything, you'll just have your fooded trees that are gonna drop debris, and we just clean them up like we always do.
I really like the boot on a tree, but once somebody goes and gunks it up, then the uniformity is gone, and now you got another. I face that with my own tree. So, you think you could trim that number a little bit? They do it for $40 a tree?
I can ask.
If they're happy to do it now? What's
I can
398 times?
Couple grand. It's $5 on 400 trees.
So it's $2,000 off, so
So
it's
not to
16,000.
exceed 16,000, we'll do it now. I'll make that motion.
You said not to exceed 16,000?
You tell them, since it's not in our budget, we're stretching it, they're here. One in the hands worth two in the bush, you know? Might not ever do it. You can sell that one, John.
If the board approves.
Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so if I get it to 16, we'll move forward.
Motion carries.
The other line is simply, everybody's probably seen the hot spots in the grass, in the bushes and some things, just because of the drought. Just wanted to make it note that we're well aware of it, but now it's starting to rain, and you can already see the grass popping back, and it always does. We got a few calls and comments, what's going on, why does everything look like it's dying, it's rain. So it will rain, and everything will come back to usual. It's a mess.
He's fallen.
Okay, the third item is not on the list because it came up just the other day. It's the little paper that I had in front of you from Pasco County. Because of the trimming behind Fairgate that recently happened, Pasco County's clearing their easements. And these easements haven't been cleared for many, many, many years, so a lot of material is coming down. So they're now communicating with us of what areas they're going to be clearing, so Seven Oaks is aware, so we don't have any surprises in the future. So this one represents, the letter represents the map that's attached, which is behind Shoregrass and Stillbrook. And that area that they're going to be clearing is a 15-foot wide easement. So that tree line, they're going to be pushing back off the bank 15 feet. The homeowners actually won't really lose any buffer in a sense because the whole tree, the group of trees is still there, but it is going to be pushed back 15 feet. This is scheduled to begin 10 days after I receive in my hand the letter from the county, which they did send out, which I'll probably receive tomorrow. So probably within the next 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, the county will be behind Shoregrass and Stillbrook on CDD property, clearing their easement.
Which is where exactly? Right on the yellow line?
Yep, that yellow line is that entire tree line that they're gonna push back 15 feet.
There was some comment made by Amy the other day, she thought the homeowners might object, and it doesn't seem to me that it really will dampen the sound barrier much at all.
Well, yeah, in this instance, probably not, but I'm bringing this to you now because they're moving north on their clearing process. It's not, according to the gentleman I spoke to, it probably won't happen this year because of budget and so forth, but in the next year or two, they will be moving north along I-75, clearing all of their hydrology easements. That's what this is. And if you want to take time to read the note, you'll see why they're clearing. But it will affect some of the homeowners the farther they go north that may have a tree line in front of I-75 now. Well, that tree line's gonna be gone, and they'll be looking at I-75. So.
Where is that?
That map hasn't been released yet.
North though, right?
Yeah, but they're just moving north. clearing. their
So,
water
we're
lines.
rest.
Yeah, they haven't even budgeted the next phase, but it will come. That's what he said to me, so I'm just bringing this to you now, so in the future, when tree lines are cleared and we start getting the calls at what happened, I can now see trucks and cars.
Lakeside and Bellafield.
That's correct.
So what could be done to add a buffer then, if anything?
Well, that's a question, that's something that's currently happening in the Fairgate, community. The tree line was cleared, homeowners were concerned that now they can hear and see I-75. Discussions are now happening between the county and myself, and the county's requested proposals to replant a buffer on our property, not on their easement, because they could clear it down again in the future if they wanted to. So that's being discussed. There has been no finalization of that yet. I don't even know if that's a guarantee that the county's gonna do that. I'm not even that deep into it. I'm providing them proposals to do that. Different proposals, some with trees, some with bushes. Bushes are more affordable, trees are very expensive, things like that. But there's no irrigation out there. So whatever we plant or they plant, if you don't plant it in the midst of the rainy season, you're gonna pay someone to water it, which is a lot of money, which you won't do. So you gotta plant it in the middle of rainy season. But if it doesn't survive, then who's gonna replant it? Are we gonna replant it? Is the county gonna replant it? I have no idea.
Can we plant hills or walls?
You mean build a wall, like a physical wall?
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess the board can do whatever they want.
A mountain of dirt seems pretty inexpensive to me.
Yeah, well, that definitely did be a tall mountain of dirt to hide I-75.
I don't know what other options there are.
Yeah, there really isn't, because all of it's on pond banks. This current one behind Fairgate that's being discussed with the county right now for replanting is right on the edge of our pond bank, which is off of their easement, but it would provide a buffer, a visual buffer, not quite sure about sound, over time, because they don't put in 40-foot trees. You put in a little tree, and 30 years from now, it's a big tree. So.
Or maybe a 25-foot tree.
Yeah,
You get those, legal cypresses.
this is strictly, strictly my opinion, but the dollars that are coming back with those trees, I'm not quite sure the county's gonna raise that cheap. That's my opinion. I'd be shocked if they did. Because they don't have to do anything, really, it's their easement, they can clear it. Back to the easement discussion, right? So they can clear the easement anytime they wanna clear it. But
Is there even a thought given to transplanting any of the millions of trees that we have from somewhere else that are small enough to be dug up, spade and dug a hole?
well, I don't know, the stretch in Fairgate's a 300-foot stretch. It's a football field.
That's a lot of trees.
It's a lot of trees.
Of bushes.
You know, so, but what's gonna happen in the future, whether I'm here or not, or you're here or not, homeowners are gonna complain eventually about a wood line getting cut down, and then looking at I-75.
Now, thanks for bringing that up. So how do who can do a study to see what other options they've gone through before from the state or from the county?
So,
I know there were
Probably
some,
nothing.
I know there were some squeaky wheels with the state that got those big high cement walls put on
Yeah.
75 down below, where Brewster Downs crosses. And they're not that rich a neighborhood, but somebody had connections to get that wall built down there.
Well, there's actually a law from 1975 of noise pollution, as to where those laws come from. The problem though is the amount per distance. So like normally it costs between $2 to $4 million for 1 mile of wall. And you can only have up to $44,800 per home affected. So if you're looking at Fairgate and you have 300 feet of wall, let's pretend it was a mile, and you only have 3 houses that are quote unquote directly affected, you exceed that budgetary amount. Nobody's gonna pay for it, it doesn't fall within that. But whenever you start looking at like the lakesides, or some of these other areas, that could be something that falls into it. You have to go to the Department of Transportation. They're also going to do a noise study to see that you've exceeded, I think, the 67 or 68 decibels. So those are the places that we would start.
But it would have to be cleared first, and then you can get the noise study.
correct.
So what, they're gonna happen for a while, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to clear their easements.
At some point in time.
Right now, the one you're looking at is budgeted, and it's gonna happen within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So it's more in the future, just be aware, it's coming. Okay. Real simple crosswalks, they got repainted, crosswalks, the speed tables got repainted with reflective paint because they should have been that way in the first place, but they didn't do it. So they now have reflective paint on them. The benches, kind of a simple discussion, I guess, because it was approved to do the benches on Ancient Oaks Boulevard and Eden Field. It's in the budget, current budget. They're just more money right now, and I just wanted to bring it to the board that, you know, they're costing versus $815 now, $1,030. Because everything is higher and it's just much higher. Not much higher, a couple $100, $250 a bench. But as long as the board doesn't really have an issue with that, because this isn't a necessity, it's a request that the board granted. It is in the budget, I have the money for it. We're just gonna spend a little more money to do it, because things are more expensive now. Just wanna really make you aware of it, and if you don't have an issue with that, so be it, we move forward.
I have a question, John. I know we had brought this up, and maybe this is for a later time, but as far as the speed tables are concerned, what we're gonna look at maybe in different areas on AOB.
I know that came up, I don't know what the board ultimately is going to decide there. I mean, that's gonna be a board decision if they wanna look into that.
I think last time I brought it up, it was brought up that there's already curvy roads to prevent your speed, and I think that proved positive when it's been an accident right by the school. You can't go that fast without having an accident, so I think it kind of worked. I know some people called for another speed table by the school because of it, but I think it proved that it worked. Like, you're gonna run off the road if you speed through those areas, so.
Well,
To me, where would you specifically want to put one?
I was thinking more, as you come around the clock tower, coming up AOB, right before, Amberside and Springwood.
They're already going 45 to 50 by
Yeah.
that. Then they have to slow up by the clubhouse, but I'm just shocked that they're even where T-bones, people crossed over between Springwood and Amberside.
So I would love to, if we could, at some point in time, take a look at that. I don't know if that's a time where, to see what that
We
would.
would talk to our traffic engineer and see if that was something that could be done.
Yeah.
What did that run basically a piece? 25,000?
It was about 2,000 a table, but then you needed signage for those tables, which were give or take 2,000 per table. So it's about 4,000 for the table and the signage.
Yeah, I would love at some point in time to take a look at that.
Can you tell me where that was again?
So, Springwood and Coventry.
Amberside, actually.
Amberside, I'm sorry.
That'd be a big speed table.
Yeah, definitely.
Where specifically?
The curve, the S curve is horrible.
Which one?
Close to North
So
Point.
it would be between Copperleaf, the northern end, Copperleaf and Battlefield, there, that stretch there that curves around. I'm out there 6 to 7 days a week in the morning. I cannot believe how fast people are going through there. The tables are working. They are.
I agree with that.
For sure.
One small good note that the speed limit signs go in Friday.
Okay.
So just because we ordered the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit signs for that stretch, they're being installed Friday. This Friday.
We love the tables. It's really helped a lot.
Yeah, and it's not that expensive.
So do we want to have the traffic engineer looking at that?
I would say yes.
So it sounds like you have 2 locations. On the north end and on
Copperleaf and Springwood. We don't do much more. I just wanted
Oh,
to
you started to do
clarify.
it?
Huh?
You started to do it, then it's done.
Pretty
Why
much.
don't you vote on it? So-
Well, she's doing the study, we're not necessarily proving that they're gonna go in.
Right, right. It's just instructions.
Yeah, general direction, you don't always have motions on unless somebody might be adamantly against it, and then it usually goes to a vote if there's dissension. Like if somebody was saying, yeah, I don't think so, then it goes to a vote.
So we're trying to run the process.
In that study, do they look at where would be most beneficial? Does it have to be at the entrance
well-
of the neighborhood? Because I feel like that spot would not be the best. It would be like a waste on.
And what we did last time, when Josh picked the locations, we picked the locations, we didn't ask him to say, hey, where is an ideal location? So I will, present the question to him and go, can we look at this and go, where are the ideal locations, and then we compare them to where there's
I would say even between the speed tables that are there, between the school road and Knoll Point.
Yes.
That's
So
where
you're saying, all right, well,
In the
then,
middle,
so you're
instead
saying
of right
do
at
a
the
third one? Are you saying do a third one?
So we're saying possibly two. So in the front here, as you're coming around the clock.
Okay.
Before you get to the clubhouse.
Okay.
And then he's also talking as you're going around the second roundabout, past the school entrance.
Okay.
That way.
Okay.
So
In the
between,
middle and
between the
Knoll
two that are there.
Not quite as far as Bellfield.
No,
No.
Okay.
There's where there's no, it's right in the middle.
Above
Is it
Copperleaf?
Yeah.
It's between Copperleaf and Knoll Point. I'm not saying, I'm saying don't do it right at Copperleaf, because I think that's not where people pick up speed, it's further towards Knoll Point.
Okay.
The biggest problem is that because of those curves there, people can't see it, and they're looking around, they're so fast.
Maybe we could do like an elevated crosswalk there or something, because there's not a middle island to kind of do like what we did before.
Okay, anything else, John?
Yes, so Stone Creek Park, we talked about regrading and resodding to direct the standing water. We do have proposals on that. They're running about $15,000 to $18,000, give or take. I say 15 on the low side because I do have one contractor that didn't factor in sod because he wasn't quite sure he could find sod, he didn't know how to price it, so forth, so on. So there was some talk way back in the past, you may not remember, that it may be a $50,000 project. It's coming in about 20 or lower. So it does need to be done. It was discussed in the last couple of meetings. This is a reserve pull to do this. It's not a budgeted item. But I'm asking the board if they're comfortable with a $20,000 cap. I don't think it'll be that much, but a $20,000 cap, and I can move forward and get this part done.
I'll motion to do it.
I'll second that.
I'll third it.
Do we have a line item in the reserve for that, or do we need to make an adjustment to it? Not, you don't have to money, but.
Yeah.
Is it easier to do that work if the park's not there? Because there's talk of a new park.
No, it doesn't affect the playground. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, it doesn't affect the playground area at all. It's not even, the playground area is not involved. It's the grassy area.
But just parenthetically, in that list that you gave us, somebody talked about Springwood Park
That's Springwood.
being degraded. We spent a ton of money in there just like less than 5 years ago.
Yep.
Has it gone, has that just frittered
Yeah,
away?
well, that park is failing. The drainage system is failing. I had it jetted, I don't know, 8 months ago, 7 months ago. When he was jetting, he didn't even pull anything out of it. So something's failing in the drain system that's under that mulch that's allowing the water to stand. I've been trying to find, I've been trying to find a contractor. I've been digging already to see if I can get a contractor, find a guy that will come out. What has to happen is all the mulch needs to be removed. All the socks and all the French drains that were put in probably need to be removed and replaced. Because it's probably clogged up with clay and mulch debris and so forth. But the water stands like a swimming pool and there's no drain in it unless you cut the curb and let it flush out, but all the mulch will go with it, so that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
But it needs to be pulled out. But yeah, that system's failing.
Yeah, I walked over there to take the picture of it because, someone had put on our page that it was underwater. And I'm like, there's no way it's underwater. And I went over there, sure enough.
Is there irrigation?
There is.
There it is, but it was after we had a heavy rain.
Uh,
And I mean,
It's definitely playing your.
yeah, the water was up to the concrete edge for the sidewalk.
Now, is there, would you speculate that the job was not done right, that was done there?
No, because it worked fine when it was finished.
Yeah.
Because remember, we did all the parks, or a majority of them. And they're still working in a lot of the parks. So I don't think it was done incorrectly, because it was working for a few years. It's probably just clogged up.
But it's filled up with stuff now.
It's filled up with something that's not allowing it to get through.
I have you drive by, it's not the aeration.
Oh, 100%.
And when I looked at it, the water was actually, it was slowly moving toward, I guess, where the drains would be, but it was moving very
Yes,
slow.
it's not draining. Because you can go out to the curb line where the drain exits, and it's not draining.
Yeah.
So it's just standing.
The picture that we took this morning shows the the huge area where the water stands.
That won't be a quick fix, unfortunately. I gotta find a contractor that wants to do it. I gotta get a proposal, and it's gotta be approved. And then we gotta move forward. Then, that's not gonna happen in 3 days, so that part's gonna be a swimming pool for a little bit of time.
I think we have a motion from Tom and a second by Andy, is that right?
Motion made.
Motion by Sean
For the
Crosswinds for not to exceed
Can
20.
we repeat the motion?
Is it not to exceed 20 grand for the regrading? I don't know if that will remulching or just removal.
Yeah, we were talking about two different parts.
Stone Creek.
Stone Creek was the first one for the 20,000. So
Right. And is this from budgeted funds or?
Reserve.
for Stone Creek is reserves, Josh. There's no budgeted fund for that.
So if this approved, then maybe different, maybe $10,000 in the budget reserves for that?
Yeah, this was discussed a few meetings back and the board had approved to move forward with Stone Creek. We just got final numbers now.
Yeah, I agree. My comment's not that the project's not worthy, it's just I'm always thinking about the checkbook here, right? So I just want all board to keep that in mind here. We can't continue to just drain the reserve, you know? So we can move forward to a vote.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Crosswinds Park, just like John's Fairgate, John's Fairgate, who requested a free library to be installed. A gentleman in Crosswinds is asking to have a free library installed in the park there. Exactly similar, I guess, to the one that's been installed in Fairgate. So I just want to make sure the board is aware of that, and if you don't have an issue with it, we did it in Fairgate, we allowed Fairgate to do it. If you don't have a problem, or if you do, just let me know.
Were the residents on that lot in Fairgate supposed to be here tonight? Did they say they were gonna come to the meeting?
I don't know.
There's an email we got today.
They planned on being here tonight to,
That was anything I sent out, no.
well, you sent out an email and I thought they said we intended on being here tonight. I didn't, I thought we were in this.
I'm a resident of Fairgate.
It was regarding the common space adjacent to lot 6.
Oh, yes, thank you, sorry. Yeah, they mentioned that they were gonna be here.
I thought they said they were the Hardings.
Yes, thank you, sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah, obviously they're not here.
What they were asking for is basically a commitment on the part of CDD is to say what their intentions are for that land. And, we've never had any agenda for that land, but we've also not given permission to build a playground, to authorize funds to build a playground in that area. For two reasons. This board, I don't think, has to feel under any obligation to correct every perceived dropped project or not included project that Crown didn't put in. Like they didn't put a playground in Fairgate. So when you come in to buy a house, you do your due diligence and say, if I got small kids, this neighborhood doesn't have a playground. You don't come in and then petition, it's like, we want a playground because every other place has a playground. You can't run on that basis.
Financially, and we understood that, and we communicated it to most of the people in Fairgate that would listen. And that's why we dropped the effort to continue going for a playground. We understood that if there was going to be a financial obligation, it would be to the people that would be utilizing it, primarily Fairgate residents.
Yeah, the community comes as it comes. I mean, we can't go back to the same, I think with the gates, there were 6 communities that don't have gates and the others had gates. We're not about to retrofit this community with 6 more gated communities. I just don't think we should feel under any obligation to do that.
Financial obligation, but you'd still approve it if the money was there from individual resources, right?
Say that again, John.
You want the residents to fund it themselves, we would have to give out approval for that.
For that use. Well, that also went into I don't know if they're hiring the same people originally, they talked about 4 years. But initially, that family who was in that house said the CDD promised them there'd never be a playground there. We never made that promise. The CDD that was never an official position of the board that a playground would never go in, or some other project would not be given to that land. I don't know where we go on this. I don't think the library, are they talking about building a shed or something that they would?
It's small, right?
Yeah, it's small. Same thing that John had put in Farragut. It's
like a
it's
big-
big and it's on a single post.
Okay.
It's like a big birdhouse.
And it's managed by a homeowner, right? He takes care of it, manages it. Same thing we did in Farragut.
Yeah.
I mean, and as long as they manage it, it's nice. I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't do it.
So we're okay for the library?
I don't
Make a
know.
motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the, or
I'll second it.
That kind of activity is a far cry from what was outlined in that letter, that they're having parties in there and a lot of noise and animals running free, and so that's a whole different issue.
Yeah, I think it's something totally different.
And that library is going to Farragut, right?
No, it's Crossroads.
Process, thank you. So we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Can you clarify that motion for me again, Liz?
Yeah, they're gonna put, I don't know what it's called.
Free library.
A small free library. It's like a large mailbox, basically, in Crossroads. TV legislation.
Yeah, okay, well, as the motion does not include modifying or designating what that area is called, all right?
No, correct.
All of them are still called common areas.
Okay, motion carries.
And the only other two things, and Taylor, I don't know if you want to talk about Grass Glen, is that on your list to talk about?
Yeah, that's probably.
Okay, so we'll do that. The only other thing I have is, I don't know if we can legally, but I would like to discontinue this paper in this community. It is a disaster every single week for us. We pick up hundreds and hundreds of these in the roads and the ponds. I know Cross Creek, the Villas of Willow Creek kicked it out of their community because they were tired of it flying around in the streets and gutters and it goes nowhere. So I don't know how to do that. Can we do it? It's just a nuisance because it's so light. Yeah, they toss it and it goes that way. So,
I have the senior account specialist contact info because I canceled mine.
all right.
So I don't know if we can legally do it as a community though.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
so
bringing up.
it certainly fall maybe under civil jurisdiction with respect to, they're
Well, but-
technically putting it on private property, right?
No, they're actually not. It doesn't make it too.
Yeah, never makes it.
It makes it. It's so light because they can't sell advertising. It's so light because they can't sell advertising. It ends up in the gutter and then it draws and clean.
Yeah.
Clogs up our pond.
So the CD can certainly send a request, and inform them that it's causing significant expense, delays, that time, instruction. If it's going into the stormwater system as well, that would be a big concern.
Definitely.
But can we mandate them? No, not necessarily. We can potentially, try and get code enforcement out here, say that there's some sort of code violation, but I doubt that would really be feasible or practical, but.
So most people feel like they're just throwing trash in the lawn.
I was gonna say, if we can do an outreach to the community as well, say, you don't let this, you can individually unsubscribe from this, and this is how you do it. That may be something that we put in the community newsletter or e-blast, something to that effect. But we can certainly send a letter on behalf of the
Is there
district.
any anti-littering laws that we can apply here?
It's a difficult subject, because obviously, it should, theoretically, if they had enough weight, or they threw it or placed it properly, it wouldn't be a CDD issue.
It's not heavy enough to throw from their car, so it doesn't make it to your driveway.
Right.
Because they can't sell advertising it because it doesn't have any content. So it's just trash being thrown in the gutter.
Yeah.
So how do we, so who can put that in the newsletter? Here's the person's contact info, who's gonna blow them up? Because honestly, this person's gonna get a ton of feedback because their neighbor needs this. Who can?
I mean, we could ourselves publish it and say, here's the step to unenroll yourself. Right?
And who I can send that to? So
We can publish that on
My newsletter, give it to Christina.
Clubhouse and on the social, next
Clubhouse Rentals.
town square too. I mean.
Yeah.
Who the publishers are and to the.
Wesley Chapel Weekly.
I have the senior account specialist. I try to call him. See what-
Just so,
It's actually gonna take away time.
Just tell them to take us off, or you're gonna get 1,000 emails.
I could offer that
Yeah,
nice,
you did
nice
this to the wall.
Say, we're about to, get the neighborhood to reach out 1,000 times if you want to push
Wesley
that.
Chapel Weekly. You've probably never seen it because it never makes it to your front.
Get us down the storm sewer.
A lot of it. So just so the record's clear, I have nothing against the company, Wesley Chapel Weekly. I don't even know them, it's nothing about them. It's just a maintenance nightmare.
And so like,
Okay, that's all I have.
It's the Laker without the Laker.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know if they're making any charge of it. I haven't seen them in the streets or ponds or anything.
Just because you're paying.
Could be it.
All right, that being finished, we'll move into tab 2, the clubhouse report. You haven't noticed by now, Teresa's not here with us today, on vacation. Wasn't there. Is there anything you guys have question-wise or want addressed by maybe John or I can follow up with?
the pool, is there a deadline? Because I feel like this isn't going anywhere productive anyway.
Pool heating or?
The pool.
No, the
Fixing
pool,
it.
the barricade is up, and then Chris is to come out and drain, then dig out the pipes that are leaking, fix the pipes, put the dirt back in it, refill the pool. He's coming out this Friday, isn't he?
Well, he's been here, he's been showing up. They've been back there working. I don't know their exact process, or progress, excuse me. But they have been showing up, but I don't know where he's at in repairs or timelines at all.
So there's probably very few other vendors that can even take on this project, or we'd have to hire multiple people.
Well,
What I want to avoid is it being August and this guy hasn't done anything.
well, yeah, the one thing that we do have that is leverage financially, and I've asked Teresa to, when she gets back from vacation, to try and quantify the cost that it's been, not the inconvenience, but the actual cost. We've lost revenue for parties and so forth.
He doesn't care about that. He's at the brink of losing money anyway, so he's probably also at the brink of just walking away. We've already paid him the majority of his contract. So
What?
We've already paid him the majority of his contract, from what I understand. So I want to put some urgency behind whatever we're doing and put a timeline into it, because I'm gonna be really mad myself if every family in this community doesn't get to use their pool the entire summer because this guy's incompetent. We didn't pull their stats. So what's a fair timeline, or how do we help him understand that this needs to be done quickly and properly? I was talking to his help, and his help doesn't even think he's doing it correct. He said he's coming up with some new adhesive to put this huge pipe together. I'm like, it needs to be replaced, which means you need to dig it out. And he seems unwilling to do that, probably because of the cost. And it's too costly for him to do this and still make money. So I feel like we're just letting him drag this on, and we shouldn't do that. So I don't know what we can do as far as a timeline. Maybe in 2 weeks this needs to be fixed. Otherwise, we need to find another vendor.
Yeah, and I've been out of the loop for a little bit, but I thought it was progressing the way we talked about it at the last board meeting. So once Teresa does come back, I think that we can follow up. We can certainly send a demand letter saying this needs to be rectified, because I believe we well past the original timeframe that was in the contract.
Yeah, and as a resident, your kids are at school, you want to use the slide that we didn't get to use the last 3 years or whatever it was.
So once Teresa comes back, I think we can touch base, what's been told to her, and then district staff will certainly send a stern demand letter saying that we expect this to be resolved.
Right, I'm not trying to throw the guy under the bus. I'm saying if he can do it, he needs to do it quickly. If he can't do it, we need to move on. So we want to thank him for what he's done and his continued effort. Please let us know if you do it, 20 days or something, but it's not going to go past that.
How much is he still to be paid on this contract?
Well, I don't know how much we can pay, I can tell you what the contract provisions, the payment provisions were. We typically withhold the last 20-30%.
And that's all we still have left, so he's at the brink of why would I go back?
He's at the point now, and I think, I spoke with Teresa and I spoke with the gentleman, Chris, when this whole fiasco happened back in May. And he said it would take like 3 weeks. So I asked, I said, so are you saying by the last week of June, this would be finished? He said, yes.
Well, Teresa's got additional feedback from people that don't think he's a reputable vendor. And so far, he's tried to do some things, but it doesn't seem like it's been done correctly. So I'm just saying, I would rather not wait until middle of July to come up with another vendor. So I don't even know, how can we start the process of looking for other people to even give us a quote? Because I think we could do that.
Yeah, we should do that. So through this, as this is going on, that way we have somebody ready to go. So it's basically directing the staff to find other vendors that can potentially finish the job or evaluate that, get proposals from them, and Jack can certainly authorize that, execute that if necessary before the next board meeting. If he's
So, Teresa, she knows what she's doing too, John does too, but at the same time, I don't know when she get back next week.
She should be back Sunday.
So what happens next if we want to do it?
Well, I mean, if that's consensus of the board, we've got the board direction to move forward, and Jack is our, unless you want to give Jack any other parameters or discussion you want to do by motion, but it will be in Jack's discretion after we communicate with Teresa.
Okay, that's good.
Do we need a timeline or?
Well, again, I think he's deferring to whatever Teresa thinks best, so whether that's 2 weeks, 20 days, or whatever the communication has been, that the vendor is telling us, we need to put that in writing firm and make sure that he's aware of that. If not, we move forward.
Okay.
Thanks, Jack.
We're gonna make that formal motion then?
I make that motion.
A second.
Second by Sean. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Jack, sorry, Josh, were you able to hear all that and keep up with that? Okay.
Yeah, I agree, thank you.
All right. Anything further regarding Teresa's clubhouse report?
She seems very pleased.
Just along the lines here, as John Thompson mentioned earlier, kind of all my communication path. I worked with Teresa to get kind of an infographic and clubhouse out for things that are up or down. I didn't know if the board had any feedback for that. I know that it's definitely taxing for the clubhouse staff to and continually, update some of the things that the quote unquote clubhouse that would be up, down, or maintenance or project, something like that. And so just looking for any feedback there that we can share with Teresa for more communication, less communication, from graphics, et cetera.
No, in general, I like the same graphic. I like being open with the community. I think when I joined the board, that was one of the big things, is just increased communication, because I think there's a lot of confusion. People think that fountain in front of the community doesn't work, but it's working. So it's just, you gotta tell people maybe 5 times, but I like the additional communication and just showing them we're working. People, things sometimes break, that's okay. So I like it. I don't know what other feedback.
Any additional?
Yeah, I like the whole communication as well, and I think Tracy's been doing a pretty good job with, and she's been doing one of the balancing acts that I know that she's been working with, and it was definitely part by me as well. And, I just didn't want our communications to only go out when it's negative stuff, right? There's so much good things that happen in Clubhouse, and we have events for people to utilize our Clubhouse, thousands of people a week. And there's so much good stuff, and so I think sometimes they get hated because the only thing they see on Facebook is something down. And so, again, it's not trying to be not transparent, it's trying to balance out, the good and the reality of things go down, so.
All right, if there's nothing else for the clubhouse report, we'll move into the district council.
Good evening, everybody. Apologies for being late again, as one before. Tonight, sometimes they have that backup, but Vanessa Steiner is here. Did you have a chance to introduce yourself?
Just to a few.
Okay. So she recently joined our office, experienced attorneys, asked her to kind of, originally it was going to be the kind of shadow and kind of see how this district operates, but obviously, because I was a little bit late, I asked her to fill in and sit at the table. A few items, follow-up items from the last board meeting. one is just with respect to an update on the pool heating cooling agreement. So Jack, I know we haven't had a chance to touch base yet, but just to give the board a quick update, there are some red line changes that they had for the contract. I didn't have any major issues with them, but certainly I think one thing that we wanted to discuss was that the cost of permits was not included in the proposal. And obviously that's something that would be an additional add-on cost. And the contract's not been signed, obviously, but Jack's got some thoughts on that.
I wouldn't sign the contract as is. Every other contract that we've put in, the vendor comes like do the renovations to the bathrooms and so forth. Permitting everything is included in that contract. We pay for it as a total project. When they came to us, they're not newbies to this business. They've been in business for what, 30 years or so forth. Permitting should have been put in that contract. And for them to put a $299,000 contract out, saying, oh, by the way, there'd be another 1,050 or whatever the permitting would be, I just think they need to eat that.
How much was it?
I don't know.
We don't know. They won't know until they apply for it, at what stages and what levels it will be. So they're saying that they'll apply for the permit, but they'll be at the cost of the district, which is not unusual. I've seen that done before, but usually that's made clear in the presentation, and I would incorporate that into my agreement. So as Jack mentioned, historically, we've always included that as a cost that the district is already paying in the compensation.
The other thing too is we got that contract down under 300,000, so to avoid a bidding situation. I don't want to need to throw that thing over 300,000 with that extra.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jack. I mean, if you come to us for $299,000, that should include everything.
Yeah, are there other companies that really do?
No.
What they do that?
No, there's no.
So they're not really afraid of a bid. It's like, you're gonna do it.
Do they have, or have they provided any sort of an estimate of what they think the permitting might cost in total?
Not at this time.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they would know that number. I mean, they do this all the time, so they can give us an estimate. But I agree with what Jack is suggesting in principle.
So as far as direction, do you want us to go back to them and say, you need to eat the cost? Do you want, worst case scenario, split 50-50, or we'll eat the cost? Obviously, if it's not going to be included, we're going to have to go through the bid process. There is going to be a cost associated with that. There's no question about that. And a delay with respect to time. And, they clearly said that they'll hold their price, but the cost is going up, I think, in November of what they represented.
It's also a deal that they don't want to go south.
I would say, go back to them and say, hey, we would like you guys to include that cost that you for the permit. I totally agree with Jack.
And if they say no, then just come back to the board and have the board discuss it at the July meeting, or do you want any contingent discussion at once?
What's their timeline? If we were given the go-ahead, what's their timeline to start?
Well, they would start immediately. They would start pulling permits and coordinating.
So we can potentially delay it if they say no or not.
Yeah. And originally at the meeting, they said that 60 days, but they're now saying that 90 days because of weather delay, rain season, which is understandable. But their goal is still to complete the project within 60 days.
But if we're looking at heating, we're looking for something to be done by November.
Yeah, I think that we could probably come back and talk about this next month based on what their answer is. I mean, I can't imagine our pool's empty right now, so.
Okay, so we got the direction from the board and provide an update. If we got one, the good news, if not, either way, I'll provide the update and we discussed it tomorrow.
And have we already authorized the chair to sign off if it does come back again, so we can move if?
Right, yeah, so the last board meeting, you authorized it and again, standard agreement as well. So. Jack, do you have any other concerns? There's a big one in the red line.
No, I have a question on the drilled sites, and John assured me that they didn't impinge on any future. I don't want a big lot somewhere and have a little well right in the middle. Now you want to use that lot, you got a well in place, because they seem like these wells can go anywhere we direct them. So I just want to say the space behind there, and if we were to get that crown going, I don't want anything put back there either.
The licensing and permits not in part of their course. Like, did you look back at their line item? The licensing and permitting is not part of their course.
So again, when it's not there and they don't make a presentation, I always automatically throw it into my agreement unless they tell me otherwise, or the board. Give me direction.
I mean, they're a big company, they've been doing this for 30 years, they consider the pre-loan is, I'm sorry, guys, you made a presentation to us, and we went with it for 299,000. The fact that I think this young guy, this may have been his first presentation, and he didn't follow up on it right, and he's trying to cover his.
The board had an opportunity to check their emails late this afternoon. I did send an update. I was expecting a follow-up response from my clarification question, but never got it yet. The emails basically are self-explanatory. Crown does not want to reschedule the hearing before the county VOCC at this time for the settlement agreement. And I don't know if I can call it a response to our original letter from this year, but basically they're saying they want a number to incite them to move out, and used to be north of 2 million because it's everything's rising on a monthly basis. So obviously that wasn't the last offer. The last offer was the vacant land, and pursuant to the terms that they had requested. I can provide an update as soon as I get one, but that's really where we're at right now. If the board would like to give any other direction, I'm happy to take it. But at this point, it's a little bit of a waiting game, and I suspect that response was certainly incited by the fact that reached out to the county attorney's office. They reached out to them saying, when are you guys wanting to schedule this? And I suspect that they're trying to do that in their favor with respect to the county, saying that, well, we gave the CDD another chance to counteroffer, and they chose not to. So if you'd like me to respond any further, I certainly could, but at this point, I try to put the ball back in their court. You're not responding to our original email.
So just kind of going back
Yeah, I
to,
think what if you wrote an agreement, right? Like, take it out of email, so we're not crossing wires, right? I mean, our stance, of course, is that they gave us an offer, we countered, they countered, we accepted. Why don't you write the agreement?
Well, before we get to that stage, again, I think it'd be what we did before, letter of intent, for those final details to be ironed out, because before we get to the agreement itself, we're gonna need due diligence period and that sort of stuff with inspections that would need to be incorporated into the insert purchase agreement.
yeah, I was gonna ask the same question.
I'm okay with letter of intent instead of the agreement. I guess I would just, let's paper the deal, right? Start papering, get it on draft form. Because right now I think we're in emails and we're kind of cross-talking on the multiple offers that are kind of going across. Let's start drafting the paper, right?
Yeah, I'm with Josh, because it's almost like they're still trying to push that 2.6 mil when we're only looking at that $260,000 property.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely agree with Josh. Let's say, hey, we want to take the offer that you've given us for the property, and the other, we'll deal with that at a later time.
Understood. Is that the board's direction?
Sure.
All right, I'm seeing a consensus, so I'll note that. And I think those are the two main follow-up items that I had. If there's anything else, I'm happy.
Is there any standing that we have, the fact that we agreed on the counter to that offer, and they reneged?
No.
They're not any.
No, so there was never a formal, acceptance and offer and acceptance. It was back and forth. And again, it's been at the preliminary stages, all of our communications and all of their communications have always been subject to that final agreement and pending that pen to paper, basically. So even the letter of intent that we originally sent over, as they requested, was subject to final agreement.
No, but like, even with that being said though, and I know this is hypothetical in terms of this, but the concept of there's mediation that's occurred, there's a mediation agreement that is theoretically going to be put in front of the county. So does that change your feedback from saying kind of a weight of, hey, there is not formal, there is a written counter and a written acceptance here that has not been pushed forward. Do you feel that that has weight at all, considering the word kind of a semi-judicial portion?
And I'll just clarify what you said, Josh, because the settlement agreement that was produced and was scheduled to go to before the county, that was not a product of the mediation. The mediation essentially was put on hold, and then the parties came up with a settlement agreement outside of the mediation. So the mediator didn't really facilitate that. With respect to whether or not it would provide any legal standing or I don't believe so, but it certainly would be persuasive to the Board of County Commissioners. And again, I think that's why they position themselves this way of sending a blank email, not really responding or acknowledging to what the prior communication was. But the county is well aware, because I forwarded them all of our communications in the past, that this is the status update. We're hoping that this will resolve it and you won't have to address it at the county level. So it is part of the record certainly already, but it wouldn't give us an argument to challenge the settlement agreement, if you will, from a legal standpoint. Certainly from a political standpoint, addressing the BOCC, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. But like you said, that was it on your update. Did you want to share the latest on S19 as well? Did I miss that?
No. Yeah, happy to get that in 1 second. So essentially, S19, it looks like they scheduled it before the Planning Commission and turned both the right date, I think it's mid-July. Again, S19 is the proposed apartment development at Permanent Community, and it's scheduled to go to the BOCC in August. So we did have, myself, Josh, as well as our special counsel, did have a Zoom meeting a couple weeks ago at this point, and they were going to produce a letter on behalf of the district. Have you seen that yet, Josh? I haven't seen it. I don't know if it's in my spam folder or not. From Chelsea or Charles?
I have not seen it either.
Okay.
Yeah, probably something that I need to follow up with Chelsea. You said that it was scheduled for planning, though. That's interesting. Last I had saw from the planning committee was that they told the applicant that they were not going to support it. So you're saying that the dates have been set?
Okay, yep, and I see that it was sent last Thursday to your Summers Life email. I'm going to forward that to you. Mark McBride has it as well. Actually, Brian, you're not even on this email either, so I'll do a reply all to that email that Tammy sent. She sent it last Thursday. Again, it's tentative dates for July 8th at the Planning Commission and August 10th for the BCC.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I did not see that. Did she say in there is staff's position still to deny it, or did they say?
No, it's strictly that they've scheduled it, so I don't believe staff's position has changed, and I didn't see any other attachments to it, so.
What exactly is staff's position at this point, which I understand?
That they were opposed to it. That was the latest correspondence that we received.
Yeah, the county planner told us, and go back and pull up the date, so this was several weeks ago, that they told the applicant that if they wish to proceed, that's their right, but that the staff was going to recommend a denial.
So the planning denies it and BOCC doesn't get it, right?
No, it will still go to the BOCC. So the BOCC can't override the planning commission. It's just a recommendation.
Okay, so we need all the residents there for July 8th and then August what?
Sorry, just change the, August 10th.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this isn't bogus, like, these are real dates.
It's, again, it is tentatively scheduled, so they can always request for it to be continued, or if something happens with the meeting date, it can be changed at a date time certain, but this is from the county and we can request an update confirmation.
Is it fair to say the project has a steep uphill climb at this point?
I mean, based on what we've already had discussions and what's going on in the county, it seems that way. However, again, preliminary indications from the county, it seems like county commissioner who resides in our community may have to abstain from this discussion for voting purposes. So obviously, that's not a vote that we can count on for or against it. We'll see what the other commissioners feel like. We do have a pulse for what they have done based on past experiences. There's a few components that are very much in favor, and they call the residents of Seven Oaks some choice names. They feel like they're privileged residents, in other words. But at this point, I don't have a crystal ball to kind of tell you one way or the other.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think it's all 50-50. But I think we can all agree, there has been nothing zoning related, and all these different incorrect, I'm fairly sure incorrect, there's been nothing zoning related within 7 Oaks that has gone to the planning commission with the staff recommendation of denial today, so far. So this will be, as far as I know, first one going to the planning commission with a staff recommendation of denial. I think that in itself is huge. That's what Beth just said, is the planning commission, whether they recommend it or not, can go against their own staff, and then whether the board of county commissioners end up overriding that as well, or still things to be determined. But I do feel like we are in a position going in that we have been.
Anything further on that?
Is there language or any documentation or something that can be provided to the resident council so that we can get the message out? These are the things that people need to talk to, these are the talking points, so that we're not just all over the place?
Absolutely, and again, I think that's partly why we want to get that documentation from our special counsel, is they are the ones who provided those talking points in the past for S12 as well. We can certainly provide it's all public records, so all the documents that we receive from the county, all the reports, the correspondence, we can certainly provide that. If you'd like to coordinate directly with Josh, Taylor, or myself, it'd probably be better with one of them, that way the district's not charged additional for that. Thank you.
I'll let Michelle see, actually, I'll do it right here, I'll announce it, I do not get on that.
Okay, and I can just let them know that if you have that tentative schedule, that it's a little bit more urgent than it was in past weeks.
Was she on that email reply as well?
No, but I think this was going back to an email chain from last October, so they weren't on that originally.
Okay. We'll make sure we get closed, and then I will plan on making it July 8th, and for sure represent the district. Would like you also attend as well, is that correct?
Let me check my schedule real quick. Is that something that you want Chelsea and Charles to attend as well?
Sorry, say again?
Is that something that you want Chelsea and Charles to attend, or maybe the BOCC that they'll attend?
Oh, yeah, I would absolutely ask Charles and Chelsea to attend along with you.
Okay.
I think that we're showing that to be a powerful mix, considering you guys have separate expertise.
Yeah, I've got some meetings scheduled, but I'll see what I can do for my meeting calendar. Yeah. And that's all I have for the board. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any, or Vanessa.
Anything further? We'll move to the district engineer then. I'm going to present and I've given them copies of the Terra engineering.
Sure, isn't that about the S19? Isn't that the same one?
No, that's.
Sorry,
different
I
parcel.
can't really find it, but S1B?
It's just storm water tie-in.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what phase ago, S1B? Is that? I did, there were a couple of comments, thank you. I did review the, calculations, and our master stormwater system is designed to receive drainage from this project. I also noted, I talked to John earlier today, that they also noted that there is an outstanding SWIFT certification And I've already looked into it and taken a look at it, so we should get that taken care of this week.
When they laid out that drainage system, they expected that there would be, those lots would be filled up, so that there really would be untoward if you discovered something that would, the default would be that it was already built to accommodate
Correct.
any kind of drainage from.
Most communities, engineers do a master drainage plan, and they take, into consideration the ultimate build out. That's part of the design process. So, that's what they did here. On occasion, they won't, you know, and even like for widening of roads, 2 lanes versus 4 lanes, they usually, because there's not typically land left to add an additional pond. So, I did confirm that was the case here.
But I would assume that that's the first of, there's several lots on that street that will probably
Correct.
filled in. They
Correct.
probably formally asked for approval, but that didn't be the same thing you ever built. The system was built to accommodate 4, 8, whatever parcels were there.
Correct. With a certain curb number, basically a certain amount of impervious area, so as long as they stay below the threshold for the permitted curb number, yes.
So assuming you guys want to approve this, go back to, we need to instruct you to write a formal agreement of some sort.
Yeah, so in the past, for common Tom's reference, we had these requests come to the board, and it's basically because SWIFT one requires a letter from the permit holder saying that we acknowledge that this development is coming on, and we've reviewed their drainage calculations, and we're gonna accept their drainage onto our property or stormwater system. So in the past, we have requested a motion to approve, staff dropping that letter and acknowledging that the district is not going to be in any way responsible for the drainage system until SWIFT signs off, inspects it, and says that it's done according to their standards, as well as having them indemnify us and any costs that may be associated with any fines, things of that nature.
I'll make that motion.
And one thing, if you want to take a second, just so we can go into discussion.
I'll say.
One thing that Josh did bring up is we've been getting a few of these, and obviously it does take some staff time for review of both engineering and council to prepare the letter as well. Is there any way to recoup that staff time, those thanks to the district is paying? We can certainly make a request. We cannot necessarily charge them a processing fee like the county can. They can make an argument saying that it's part of the drainage system, you have to take it regardless, we're just asking you to do what you've done for other communities. They can, if they're within the district boundaries, they can also say we're already paying our assessments. So we cannot demand it, we can certainly make a request. And if they say no, we can still send the letter out. So I just want to make sure that that discussion was there in case Josh, you wanted to add anything else to that as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I don't have any interest in holding this, request up, with this, but it was just kind of a flag in my head of saying, every time these come across, we're paying Tanya, we're paying Quebec, we're paying Rosetta, these are all, $2,000 extra fees that we are, having to pay out. And it's kind of like, I pay my HOA dues, but I still pay the top of them, but I want something special, right? So, even though they're paying the CDD, just doesn't seem illogical for us to say that there's additional expenses incurred that we're asking them to recuperate. So I'll leave it up to you whether you want to hold that up for this request or not. Maybe just think that was a policy for future ones, but it seems like some money will get work.
Josh, I agree, man. I think we should maybe say, hey, we make a recommendation that you pay for those services for us right now. I mean, what's the worst thing they come back and say no?
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it's absorbing it, compared to the price cost of the project, a couple thousand or something, we can look at the real cost for everybody, but I would imagine we're probably in the $2,000 range by the time we pay all of our professionals, so it's not like we're trying to make money on this, just make sure the costs are different.
So again, any discussion for this specific request, or is that for future?
I would say for this one, I would say start it now.
Okay, so part of that motion is to go ahead and request.
Include that in.
Okay. And then the second, you already seconded it, but you're okay with that? Yes. And if they say no, we'll still proceed again, we're obligated to.
And you'll determine, who's gonna determine what the amount we're gonna ask you? You have a common one,
Right, so I'll ask Tanya, and we'll just see, you know, what her invoice is, I'll look at my invoice time was and what cost for her letter, we'll just request that. I think it's probably less than like $1,500, $5,000.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
And where's this one?
Oh, it's between Windcrest Drive and Ruby Downs Boulevard, it's that another.
When you come in Mystic, you turn north there, that goes up to the businesses up there. It's on there. They're just filling in some of those lots of doctor's offices.
Yeah. Thank you.
We to vote then, all in favor?
Yep.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
That's it.
The proposals for the grass cutting place. So you have, I gave everybody the Cross Creek proposals that you sent. There's two, I just wanted you to be able to, I guess, differentiate the two for the board to choose.
Yeah, John and I have been working on this together because I know that, he had gotten a proposal from Site Masters. It was less. We debated the fact that the Cross Creek proposal is more appropriate for the condition that we're in. I mean, there are sensitive areas, particularly like this, where we have to pay particular attention to corners of ponds back in the road because of leak discharges, and we've got the roof, that was a problem, the roof drainage, that was a problem. The lesser, proposal was just basically backfilling, regrading, going on down. I think this has a higher velocity that we need to have something a little bit more mechanical for the repair.
So Tanya, so the first one is just to do just the bare minimum?
Is that the Site Masters, or is that Cross Creek?
Oh, this is Cross Creek. Both of these are Cross Creek.
They're both Cross Creek.
One's 6,200 and the other's 9,700.
The 97 takes a $3,500 additional step. The 62 is definitely required to fix the bank properly. But if you want to take the extra step of actually regrading the property higher up towards the homeowner's home, and taking it, flattening it all out from the homeowner's property line, flattening all out to the water's edge. It's an extra step if we want to take it that far. According to the contractor, it's not a necessity. The 6,200 fills the gap of what needs to be done.
And they're still keeping the downspout, right?
No, those are gone.
But did they take them off the roof drainage, or did they just disconnect them from the pond?
They just disconnected them from the pond.
So you still have a source of velocity coming down from that downspout that I think would be corrected through that additional step.
Were they supposed to be redirected? Can it not flow to the street?
Well, it can, he just have to put a French drain in to take it to the street. I don't know if he's willing to do that or not.
And this should take care of it, because he's flattening it out and having a little source of energy dissipation at the bottom of it. It should facilitate, because the problem is that pond's in that corner. You know, if it was on a flatter side, you know, we wouldn't have too much problem, but just having that point discharge directly right at that corner, it just makes it susceptible.
Should the spill dirt have to be added to make it level?
I think so, because it's a gully washout. So you gotta fill in that gully.
So Tanya, your recommendation is for the higher amount to be carried?
Correct.
I'll make that motion.
Take it all the way back to the house.
Okay, so that's for $9,700. The Cross
Do you
Creek
agree with that?
proposal number 7735. Motion by Andy, second on that.
I'll second it.
Second by Jack, all in favor?
Well, before we do that, just,
You know, we clarify the you're not running first?
we need to make sure that what you just brought up, that the downspouts need to be addressed in some way.
Yeah, we need to make sure that they put an energy dissipator underneath the drainage runoff board. I can send you a little, well, nobody really likes my little detail, but it does help dissipate the energy. But even if they got one of those little things at Home Depot, at least it does something, and you got the extra protection with that extra service.
So we'll contact Mr. White on that then for his home. Okay.
Apologies if I missed it, could someone clarify if this is budgeted or not?
Yeah, Josh, that's exactly what I was gonna talk about. This is definitely outside of the current budget that we have for pond bank remediation. This was discussed in the past also, that it would have to be pulled from reserve to move forward on a project like this.
We really need to get together and figure out what's going on in reserves.
So my overall previous comment, I'm gonna kind of say, and maybe we can address it later, Taylor, just send your request to email, but maybe we can find out, how much non-budgeted funds we've approved tonight, and maybe we can adjust the upcoming proposed budget to account for it. Again, the reserve isn't infinite, and we do have a lot of big ticket items, including some of these legal items floating out there, so I just want to be very, very cautious with the checkbook. Just another comment.
Any further comment before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries. I think that's it. Tommy, did you have anything further?
I did not, Taylor.
Okay, so we'll look forward to 7735 and coordinate with Mr. Will on that.
Did you have something, Jeff?
Yeah, it was just, the grading, I mean, you're just gonna put dirt and fill it, does anything go over it?
No, they put what they call geotubing. It's basically a giant tube that they fill that supports the bank. Then they fill on top of that geotube. So it's restoration of the entire bank.
Thank you.
Start sending the all right, nothing further for engineer then. Moving on to district manager update, police contract.
Sorry, you did an
We're still targeting October. It's still on track.
still on track for October?
Yep. We'll be having, hey Josh, we'll be having this conversation every month as we get to it because we're gonna be monitoring the weather patterns at this point.
Yeah, I understood that. My bigger concern is more just communication with the residents, making sure everybody knows, logistics, right? I think the improvements will be welcomed by all. It's just as the last two times, it's really just logistical concerns, right?
Well, and there have been significant improvements in that over the past couple of years, so you will not be as disrupted as we have been in the past.
Excellent. I'm there. Thank you.
All right. The next board meeting for Seven Oaks is being held Wednesday, July 14th, 2021 at 6:30 right here. I got the financial statement here in your agenda as well under tab 3. Currently under budget for this year, 398,000 and some change. So we're trending in the right direction. Other than that, I don't have anything further for you guys unless you guys have any questions. I think we've already addressed everything else under somebody else's report by now, so.
Were we affected cost-wise by that accident? With replacing, like, who covers that?
The county came out and did everything.
Yeah.
So
I have paid for it.
We don't know if we're gonna get any
Yeah.
correspondence or request for reimbursement from the county. They did it, again, it was our property, but obviously it was an emergency situation that impacted a lot of county services as well. So when and if we do get that correspondence, we'll provide that to the board and request, documentation.
Do we not have insurance on the guy?
I believe we've got, isn't there a police report?
there is a police report that's readily available. There was this is hearsay, but someone had heard on site, one of the county guys heard on site that the driver was uninsured. Uninsured, but I can't verify that, but that's what he heard.
Sure.
But again, until or unless the county sends us the bill or any correspondence, we don't need to take any affirmative action.
Until then.
Correct.
No, we did have expenses beyond the county, items, though, right? We did have expenses of our own to repair. Is that correct?
No, Josh, we don't. With the Lakuchi came in.
We didn't have any landscaping or irrigation costs?
No, they brought in sod. County brought in sod.
Okay. Awesome, okay, thank you.
Sweep that under the rug, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, under tab 4, you have the fiscal year 1920 audit for your acceptance. There's no adverse findings, clean audit. So just looking for a motion to accept that.
So move.
Motion by Jack,
I'll second.
second by Sean, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. In tab 5, you have the minutes of the board of supervisors meeting held on May 12, 2021. There's no corrections or comments you guys are seeing, we just look for much to approve.
Approve.
By Sean,
Second.
second by Tom, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Under tab 6, consideration of line expenditures for the enterprise fund for March 2021, the amount of $4,117.71. There's no comments or concerns of what
Move to accept.
motion by Jack,
Second.
second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Under tab 7, consideration of line for the general fund for March 2021, the amount of $283,785.25.
For March.
March,
For April?
yes, April, I'm sorry.
I'll approve.
Motion by Sean,
Second.
second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Supervisor requests. The supervisor request this time.
I'll just make mine then, so can you get a total with the non-budgeted expenses that were approved for tonight?
Yeah, I got your email, so I'll go ahead and send that out. As soon as I get actually do it. I believe it's just the 20,000 and
20,000, no, 16,000 for the booting.
So Josh, this has been a concern. Is there something in particular you're hoping, like a balance you're hoping to maintain?
so 97.
97.
646.
I'm not sure if that was directed to me or not, I couldn't hear you very well.
Yeah, sorry, it was. You've been concerned about the checkbook tonight, so I'm just curious if there's an expense you're concerned about or a balance you're hoping to maintain for some reason.
No, just, I'm not staring at the numbers correctly right now, so, maybe I can answer those in 24 hours later, but, we did agree to take $300,000 out of our reserve fund to pay for the pool heater, which I still believe is the right decision to make. But if we follow that up tonight with $100,000 pulled out of the reserve fund as well, it's very atypical for us to do such large reserve pulls on non-budget expenses. We usually, will, project obviously need it, but considering we already had this large pull out of the reserve, it just kind of in general raising the hair on the back of my neck. Considering we're right in the middle of budget season and we haven't technically approved the final, we obviously cannot increase that budget amount. But what we could do is take a look and, again, I'm just waiting for numbers. Let's just say we approve the $100,000 budget tonight. What we should probably do, just to be physically proven, is to remove $100,000 from our coming budget, and that way we're not taking money from reserves. That would at least make it so we're net zero for next year.
Okay, that's good. I'm just looking for perspective, that's all.
Yeah. Josh, to answer your question, it's 45,700 is what we approved tonight.
45,000, okay.
Yeah.
And can you remind me what the profits were in the capital outlay for the current proposed budget?
The debooting of the palm trees.
You talking about what we did tonight? Or are you talking about?
16, yeah. Yeah, 16 was debooting the 16 was debooting the palm trees. If that comes through, they may or may not accept, our response, our counter.
Yeah, apologies, let me restate my question. Out of our current proposed budget that we haven't yet finalized, right? We still gotta wait, we're putting that in July or August, correct? So we have a proposed budget, we have a capital outlay item that has quite a few projects in there. I'm wondering if there's somewhere equivalent of $45,000 we can pull out of that, so maybe kill one of the projects for next year, which would make us at a net zero.
I mean, I don't know, I have it with me to answer right now.
Could you look at that for next meeting?
Yeah, we can look into it.
Look at it between now and next meeting, make a recommendation.
But we've also got,
Is that the intention to vote on the final in July?
August will be the final.
August?
Correct.
Okay, so we have time, I don't think we have to take up the extra time tonight. Taylor, you can just send me that number, again, of what we spent tonight, and then I can make a proposal to the board.
Okay. All right, I'll correspond with you.
Okay, thank you. Only other thing I would say is, I don't recall being discussed, I apologize if someone else went through airport security on this call, but, hopefully everybody saw my email and my intentions, to step down next month, from the board, because I'll not be a resident here until next soon. So I just wanted to see if the board had already posted that and begun a search.
No, we haven't taken any action.
That's a normal process.
But this is, we typically send out an email blast, put it on the website saying that there's a board vacancy or expected board vacancy to come in. Residents who are interested should submit their resume or a cover letter or some kind of statement to the district and present themselves at the next board meeting, so the board can evaluate them and potentially appoint them then or at a future board meeting.
So with 4 members, how do we positively put some?
You all have consensus, right? Like it's a 2-2 and you only have split one, basically table until you can find to somebody else.
Yeah, so we can go ahead and announce that if you guys want, and start collecting resumes for next meeting. That's direction from you guys.
Yeah, I think that's good. I appreciate the notice, Josh.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bump out for me, I apologize for it, and also thank you guys for everything. Again, intend to stay here for another month or so. I know that topic we can talk about maybe next month, since I know we're late tonight, but, with these active legal discussions, I'd be happy to continue in any, manners that is, both ethical, that can help us navigate, to make sure we're not crossing lines with anything, but, definitely want to help and continue to help this community if I can with the S12 19 discussions.
And the board certainly could still have Josh as an authorized representative of the district. Can't hire him as a consultant because there are certain Commission on Ethics, Code of Ethics regulations that a sitting public official cannot lobby, work for, or consult on behalf of his former agency. But certainly, if he's willing to volunteer, and the board's so willing to have him. Obviously, with S12, they made their intentions clear that the only representative that they're willing to discuss is with Andy. So I don't know if Andy wants to take on that responsibility, but that's directly with Craig Weber. But I can
say that again. They only want to talk to him.
Yeah, that was in that email. Are
you a pushover? What's that?
No, and Craig had let me know that.
I see your car over there a lot.
Yeah, well, it is over there occasionally. So, and I told the board this before, I worked with Crown in another 2 districts that they currently build in, so I think it's just a comfort factor from Craig's perspective, probably. But, it's entirely up to the board, and I'm happy to do it. Obviously, I only do what the board decides, as far as communication, so.
No, I think you'd be excellent.
Do you think there'd be any conflict of interest? Are there other topics that would maybe be used as leverage? I mean, is there any reason why we shouldn't have you represent?
No, because I don't think I've had a working relationship with them now for several years, so it's not like all of a sudden they're gonna say, hey, if you don't convince the board to do A, B, or C, we're pulling our business. It's not, I don't have any concerns about that. And, again, anybody from our board that speaks with Craig is only going to go with the director of the board. So if the board says, tell Craig no, then that's gotta tell him, so.
And Tom, I don't know if you recall this or I mentioned it before, but we have the same conflict. We do, our firm does represent, Craig on the show districts. I don't do it personally. I'm actually blacklisted this side. I can't touch those districts. But our firm does. But again, we disclosed that to the board before, and as Andy mentioned, our role, our responsibility is to represent this board. And this is separate from that.
And I don't know, at this point especially, I don't know.
I have no issue with, if Andy wants to take over the whole thing, and I trust Andy, he's a good steward for the board, I think that's fine. We can also split duties, right? We need to be liaison directly with Craig, say with the county.
He won't be a board member, so we communicate directly with each other.
We'll have to wait for a public meeting.
I'm open with however you guys want to do it, but just want to make sure that you throw it out there that I was not exiting and leaving you guys in the lurch, so please let me know what you like, and I'm happy to volunteer.
Appreciate that, Josh. You've been an invaluable resource, not only for those two projects, but for a lot of other things. So.
Yeah, thanks for all your work.
Yeah, thank you.
CDD, Jeff.
Good mission, Josh.
Thank you. I'll definitely see you guys in person next month, for sure.
Any other supervisor requests?
None for me.
Josh, have fun on vacation.
I was gonna say.
I'm actually in the airport on the way back, so it's kind of a depressing side of it. Yeah.
Oh, man, okay.
So it is hard to keep depressed in my life, so it's pretty good.
All right.
All right, thank you so much, have a great.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Before motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
By Tom,
Second.
second by Sean, all in favor?
All right.
8:43. Meeting adjourned.
So I literally